Welcome to the Hyper Guy Motivational Podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. I have a wonderful guest here today, Nilda Palacios. Thank you so much for being here. She is a community health worker in the Bay Area. She's also a student at UC Berkeley. It's a great school, by the way. And she's majoring in sociology. She's an ex-offender who spent 17 years in prison. And her story has been featured. She has an amazing story, amazing life story that we're going to hear about today. And she's been featured in the magazines Mother's Jones. She's also been featured in the New York Times and on a podcast, Two Sisters on a Journey. Thank you so much for being here today, Nelda.
You're welcome. And it's a pleasure for me to share my story with you again, Martin. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can absolutely hear you. Yes. You're good to go. You're good to go. If you want to speak a little louder, you can too. But thank you so much. And before I start, I just want to make sure that we're going to be discussing some stuff about domestic violence. So if there's any listeners out there that might be sensitive to that and don't feel comfortable with it, then I just want to let you know that we'll be speaking about some of those issues today. But Nilda, I always start out this way. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in LA, and all my life there, that's all I knew. I was raised by my mother, who at the time was a single parent, and LA South Central. And pretty much that's all I knew. Never been to San Francisco, never knew anything about the Bay Area until later on.
And what was it life like growing up? Was it just you and your mom?
So, no, actually, um, at first, when I was like maybe 16 months year old, my mom was a single parent. My father had left her, and he left with the babysitter. And then later on, she kind of was on her own, and she had to raise me. She found a babysitter, so she had to like find two jobs to kind of like raise me. By then, when I turned 7 years old, I didn't know I had a brother. He lived in a different country. So she brought him from Guatemala, and then he shows up, and I'm like now a newborn, and he's kind of like integrated in my life. And eventually, my mom finds herself a boyfriend, and he's in the picture. And then eventually, my mom finds herself pregnant again with a third child. And that's when my youngest sister is born. And now it's three of us at a home. And by now, my mom is using alcohol and spending more parties on the weekends. And it's all three siblings. And we're basically always constantly having more people in and out of the home. And to me, it was just like the norm, having parties, people in and out of the house. But by now, there's something more that I'm getting older. I'm 9 years old, and I'm becoming more exposed to men in and out of the life. And my mother isn't really, she's emotionally absent, so she's really not present as much. So I'm being more parent guided by these strange people in my life. And so there's a lot of neglect as like the role model of a parent figure. So more sexual abuse is being exposed to me as a child. um, and at first I'm thinking maybe I should talk to my mama about it, telling her like when she leaves, I'm being sort of like um, molested by my uncle. And as a mother, I think that she didn't really open up to me about some things that she was going as a child herself. So she kind of like brushed it under the rug, and she tried to address the issue herself. um, but back in those years, parents didn't really like address stuff like that. So they didn't, she tried to do the best that she could and try to handle it herself. Well, I felt like I was being very not heard. My voices wasn't really heard and acknowledged. So um, instead of like listening to my issue about uh, being molested with my uncle, my mother decided to help my uncle and sort of like pushing him away and telling him that he needed to go, but he never really got convicted or charged for any of the situation that was happening at home. So I didn't see anything happening afterwards. It was more like they helped him sort of just leave, and my voice wasn't like acknowledged. It was like, what kind of attention do you want? You're more just, you're a child, you're looking for this type of attention. You need to stop looking for that attention from men. And so I kind of was confused about it, like maybe I shouldn't have said nothing. And so in my junior high years, the teacher in my school was like, there's something going on with this child. Um, she's falling asleep in class too much. What's going on at home? So her concern was to ask me questions, just kind of like, you and I are having this conversation. And my normality was to tell the truth and be like, well, I'm not getting enough sleep at home. One of my uncles is having to pay me visits at night. And I didn't know by disclosing that information, they were going to call CPS, get everyone involved, and then addressing the issue to my parents. And so what happened was my mother got really angry at me because she said that what happens at home, you should never bring it outside and tell anybody about it. It turned out that the system removed us away from the home. Me and my youngest sister, my brother wasn't in the picture anymore. He had to leave. He decided to not deal with my parents anymore because he was also being physically abused by my mother. Like my mother's discipline was more brutal than anything. Like her way of feeling like discipline was not like a normal disciplined parent. It was more like throwing plates at us, being harsh. And so he kind of had enough and was like, I'm ready to go. Anyway, so 2 years later, my mom fought for custody to get us back. And the only person that really didn't have a clean slate was my stepfather. So my stepfather stepped in the picture and said that he would, um, claim to step in and take care of us. Well, in that time, I didn't want to complain about what he doing already or attempting to do. So I kind of kept my mouth shut because I had already experienced a bad experience about the fact that when I try to make an attempt of being honest about my uncle, my mom was already disagreeing how I took the situation into my hands and reported it. So this time with my stepfather, once he started like manipulating me as like, you're not my daughter, and the only reason you're home is because I took it upon myself to tell the judge that I would be responsible to call you back into our home. And so they're not going to believe you if you tell them what I'm doing to you. And I became overprotective over my youngest sister. And what I mean by that is like, I did not want him closer to my sister. I didn't want her changing the diapers. So I jumped into this role as like, my mother was never home. So I cooked, I washed dishes, I make sure I did the grocery list. And so I learned these different bargaining like labels. I know the names to those things, but as a young kid, I didn't know that was the behavior that I was contributing to. And
Nilda, how old were you at the time?
I was already 9 turning 10, which I was already like learning how to bargain with my stepfather. So when he would teach me how to have oral sex with him, he would like tell me, come here and go to the room with me. And I would be like, well, we need groceries in the house. And he'd be like, okay. how much money do you want for the groceries? And so I started soliciting the fact that he would pay me and I would give him sexual favors. But because he would manipulate me and tell me that my mom wouldn't believe a single word if I told her that I was having sex with him. And it was true. My mom was so blind to it that she wouldn't have ever even crossed her mind that he was sleeping with me or having that oral sex with me. Um, and so this went on for maybe 4 years. So my mindset was like, I need to get out of this situation. I'm angry. I'm mad. I hate my life. But I need to hurry up and go to school and finish school so I can leave this shithole. I was so angry at my mom. My anger turned into rage, and I was just like, I can't believe this is just like happening in this environment, and then I can't escape. I can't leave out of this just filth. And so my sister's getting older. She's 7 years old. I'm having to take her to school, and I have to go to school myself. So this is a responsibility that just was like put in my lap. And so I feel like now I just have to complete this mission to make sure that my sister's old enough to talk and sort of like speak for herself. So now I'm in high school. I'm getting older. I'm dressing up a little different. And I start pushing and shifting myself towards school, which means that I'm out of my house by 6:30, and I'm out of there till 7 o'clock at nighttime, which means I'm also taking night classes so that I can complete high school by the time I'm 17, because I want to get out of school as fast as I can.
And how are you doing in school? Like, were you getting good grades?
So I excelled pretty fast. I was an honor student, and I was trying to enrolled as many programs. I became a tutor class student, so I can be more in school than in my own home, so that I can hurry up and complete my classes. And I have a couple of honor listing. I got into programs. I wanted to help so many students just to accomplish goals and just get out of class, out of my own home. So when I was in my senior year, I experienced a traumatic event in high school, right before graduation. Um, I think one of the teachers kind of like really singled me out in class. We were working in this trolley for the community, and we had to like build in computer graphics. So one day I asked him, excuse me, can we about my high school credits? I needed so that I can count on that class in the school credits so that I'm able to count on that so that this year I can graduate and call it a day and get a job, because I started applying for a night school job. And he said, yeah, let's check in with me at lunchtime. And so as a student, I went ahead and, checked in lunchtime. As I went into his classroom, he opened a briefcase, he added my hours, and all he said was, you're short 4 hours to complete the night classes for me to give you your full complete credits. And I said, well, I'm working at additional hours, so is it possible that you can give me some assignments so that I can do the assignment and you can give me my credits? He turned around and he said, there's other ways you can just go ahead and give me, you can give me head and I can just give you the class. I can pass you the class. And I looked at him and I said, excuse me? You're asking me for what? And I think my reaction threw him off guard, because he did that with other students. He smoked weed, he chilled with other classmates, but he never thought that I would reject his oppose. So my reaction to his request, um he messed up. In other words, he didn't think that I was gonna object to his request. So I turned around with my backpack and I was gonna storm out. But the material that we have in our classroom, it's sort of like you have to account for it before you leave. So you can't just like walk out and leave. You have to key the door and then let the student out. So I'm stuck in the class. We start having an argument, and then that's when he assaulted me. He assaulted me. He did not want to leave me. He's like, "You're not gonna tell the principal," and I start fighting him, and I say, "You're not gonna take advantage of me. This is what I did not come here for. I came here to talk about some credits," and he ended up getting arrested for that. The school found out that he had over 38 cases of sexual assault, and they still allow him to teach in that school. I fell into depression. I felt embarrassed because he was an African American man. I didn't know how to talk about it. This was the first time I had ever been in the media, so I was put on the spotlight. All of a sudden, my magical family wants to do something about it. And I'm confused because this whole time I'm thinking it's been happening underneath your faces. It's been happening all along. Why do you guys give a shit about it now? Why does it matter? It's been going all these years in front of your faces. Why is this case so important? Like, why does it matter all of a sudden? And I didn't understand what law meant, like the law, the civil case, the money that was involved in this situation. I was very naive to all that. I was just like involved with therapy, with depressing medication. And this was like 9 months prior to my crime. So this is why I think it's significant that I share this to you guys, because of the length of time that it escalated, how soon that it happened between the time that I got involved in the relationship. So the teacher goes to prison, he gets his license revoked. I end up falling into depression. I end up being stuck in this mindset that I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to see a therapist. I don't want to talk to people. And everybody just wants to ask me what happened, how did it happen, details. And I was just like, so felt betrayed by the system in school, because that was my only escape to feel safe. And I wasn't safe there anymore. So I had to find something else to do. And then now I have the stepfather who is just like, still doing his thing, and I'm just like rejectful. Like, I'm feeling hopeless, because now my goal that I was initially in my head, that I was going to leave home to make this success, to go to work and make my own home, was like destroyed. So now my story is being blown in the news, because now that this teacher is exposed, I try to work it through, and I say, no, I have to go to school. I have to make it. I don't care if the situation just happened. So I signed up for Los Angeles City College, and I don't care. I'm just like, I have to try. I can't let this situation literally like destroy me. So I signed up for school for a semester, and I give myself like at least 2 weeks to sign up, and I keep trying, and I know that it's going to mess with me, but I have to. So I went ahead and seen the therapist. The therapist gave me like a whole bunch of pills, and I just tried to live life the best that I could in the couple of weeks that this situation happened, my family tried to be supportive. I just like let them deal with it as best as they could. So there was this one guy in college that was really empathetic, and he was like, "Hey, I heard what happened. I just want you to know that maybe if we go out and you distract yourself, maybe that would be helpful for you." And and so I shared with him. I was just very stupid. I don't know why I did and confiding in someone that I just met. I didn't know who he was. I just said, you know what? I just need to get out of the house that I live. I need to get on my own. I don't want to live there no more. This is what I'm going through, and I want to start over. And it is not where I am at. I need to move out. I need to start fresh. And he heard my story. He's like, you know what? That sounds like a brilliant idea. I have a job. I make enough money. Lies. I didn't find this out till like maybe 3 months until I moved in with him. He was a drug dealer, a drug dealer that sold me a dream. He's like, I have my own house. Yeah, right. He lived in a squatter. A squatter home is a place where the bank gives you a place so you can babysit so nobody else can vandalize the place. And I didn't know none of this because I was so dumb. I was like stuck in a world where I didn't think people lie. I thought people lived diligently, that they would just, want to help you. And so I go and I rushed the process. I moved in with him. He was so romantic. He was always helping me, buy me flowers, establish me. The place looked so nice. And I always question it, like, why is there not fully furnished? Why is everything so empty? But to me, it was away from my stepfather. It was away from a horrific family. I didn't question it. I said, fine, if this is a starting over point. Now we're in 4 months right after the situation with my high school teacher, and situation is starting to turn downhill. And what I mean by that is the relationship with this new person. I have my own car, I have my own phone. Um, I started to go back to school, I start seeing my therapist, but he's now telling me, you can't wear that. You can't have friends. You can't have a communication with your family. You can't even go out and spend, money. And I'm thinking like, why? Why can't I do that? Because he's trying to control my finances. He's trying to control my car. He's trying to eliminate everything else out of that circle. And I didn't understand I didn't understand why. He's like, oh no, you have to, downsize your circle because now people are going to be trying to befriend you because of what you have. And he would always try to manipulate that. Like, you got to be careful. You got to be mindful of the people that you invite in your circle. But all along, he was just a manipulator, a liar. And all he wanted was to try to make sure that he was the only one getting into that money. Eventually, he started allowing me to get addicted to drugs. And by feeding me that drug, he had better control of me. Now we're talking 6 months into the relationship. And by that, he would start hitting me. And it was like I went from being at home with my mother, who would beat me, and I would watch her be in a relationship with her boyfriend who would abuse her and hit her, and she would stay, to modeling in this relationship with this boyfriend and being in the same situation as my mother. And I felt like, how how did I end up in the same cycle? How did I invite someone in my life, not knowing anything about him, you know, and can't even end it, can't even reach out to help. And so it's just, it was feeling helpless. I couldn't even tell anybody because now I felt like I got myself in this situation. I would go to school and I had to wear like long sleeves because I had bruising on my arms. I was afraid to make any reports because to me, I was like, oh, I don't know how to deal with the situation. My mom never taught me, you have to reach out to somebody about this. Many times I wanted to call her to tell her, but then I was afraid to worry her, so I started losing weight. I started losing my self esteem. Um, I didn't know about domestic violence programs. Um, I started feeling confused about mixing my depression medication and, like numbing myself. Um, I was so lost that I started thinking about suicide. I wanted to end my life for the first time. I felt like what was truly my purpose. And I did never have a role model figure, like a father figure. And that I felt like I kept just getting in the cycle of a relationship seeking for a father. And then
So what was that? You said you got into this cycle. How long were you with your boyfriend at the time, and did it just spiral out of control pretty quickly? And did other people know about what was going on?
so um so then this only lasted 9 months. 9 months. And there was several people in this town um, that really noticed it, and they reached out to me. There was a friend of ours named Noah, and he was a Christian man who got involved, and he asked, you need to leave this relationship alone. You need to just try to get involved in Christianity. You need to get yourself, away from this relationship. By me getting other people involved and listening to other advices, I was being accused of cheating. I was being accused of sort of stepping in out of the relationship. So unfortunately there was always consequences. um there was always like, oh, what are you doing sleeping around? And come here, get undressed. What did he give you? Did he give you another phone? It was always that mistrust. And I felt like I would always get other people in trouble. So that caused problems, fighting. I would always get beaten for it. And then afterwards there was repercussions for that. So I got fed up. Eventually I would fight back, but I never could win any battles. I knew that at some point this situation was only escalating to worse. um when I found out that he came to, because one day I came and my stuff was gone. He lied to me and said that they came and robbed the place. And I said, how is it that they robbed the place and it's just all my stuff is gone, and your stuff is still here? And so I started catching on to things like that. And pretty much he had already premeditated that he was just going to eliminate me out of the picture. And he had two ditches in the back, and one of those things that looked like burials. So all my stuff they found buried, like all my materialistic, like cosmetics, clothing, um, my um clothing, like blankets, everything was like in black bags, and he had literally put them in them trash bags and just buried it. I had a cat as an animal, like a little cat, and one day I wanted to go out and just sort of like leave. And he did something to my car. I don't know if he took off the brakes or he unhooked something to the engine, and my car wouldn't start. So he's like, you were thinking of leaving? And I'm like, well, I just wanted to go somewhere so I can just get out of the house for a little bit. And so he's like, here, come on, let's go. I'll take you. So for the type of job that he did as a drug addict, drug dealing or whatever, he took me in his taxi. And I had my cat with me, and I was just like kind of sort of petting it and stuff. And we were driving, and as we were driving around, we started arguing about money, finances, who was talking to who about this friend, Noe, because he was inviting me to church. And we were literally going like 30, 40 miles on the street. And it was something that I said in aspect to Noe about him inviting me to church, and he was disagreeing about it. He literally opened the front of the passenger seat, and he's like, well, if you like to be hanging around with ministry and church and you want to go with him, why don't you just get out of the car and get the fuck out of here? And he opened the passenger and kicked me out of the car as it was moving. And I said, to me, I was like, who in the right mind would say something or push someone out of the car with a cat, an animal? At first, I thought he was just like trying to put fear in me. But to get to the point of just doing so, like with that intention, that I had enough, I had felt like that was enough. So I think that that was my breaking point to like calling my mom. And we literally got kicked out of the car with me and the cat. And so I don't know, he kept going in the taxi. And I got to like some street corner, and there were still public phones then. So I called my mom and like crying because I was scraped up, and I just called my mom, and she was just like, where are you? Give me the address where you are. I'll go pick you up. And this is the first time my mom says, let's just call the cops. Let's just call and make a report. We can help. We can just make a report. But I was so afraid. I was like so conditioned in my head that I was like, I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to call anyone because he's going to come after me. He's going to come get me. I was so conditioned in the mind that he knew where I live. He knew where to find me. He knew that he would come and get me. And that was the end of me. So my mom just sort of got me and took me back home to her home. Um, I don't know what he did in my head that I was just like stuck, traumatized. Like I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to, um, I was so afraid. I was so afraid to even call anyone for help. And so 2 weeks later, he goes to my mom's house and drags me out. Like he has that authority. And then that's into those 2 weeks, um, my mother knew that it was going to be the last time she seen me. Um, I didn't know that that was going to be my breaking point. My cat ended up staying at my mom's house. Um, but that cat went through so much. And I feel like she passed away like a week right before I got arrested. And I don't know, it was like so many different signs for me to acknowledge that it was coming to an end, and I still didn't know how to like break that cycle. I told my mom what was going on but I didn't tell her everything. Um, because I feel like she couldn't help me. She was in the same situation herself. And I wish, and I feel like we were both trapped, and I couldn't like really talk to her more about how she could help me when she was in the same situation. So I'm back in this damn situation, back all over again. I'm dragged into this home. Now I have nothing. Um, and he says, if you do that again, you're never gonna see your family. And so I'm without a job. I'm without a medication. Um, and this time it's we're back to selling drugs. And this time I'm like, I don't even want to sell nothing anymore. I want to quit. I want to give up. And it happens in the middle of the night when it's 3 o'clock. Um, I'm just laying there, and I tell myself it has to be something more than this. I'm tired of it. I can't deal with this anymore. Um, and he gets up and he starts tripping. He starts telling me, I know what you did. I know that while you were gone with your mom, you were with someone else. And he doesn't let it go. So he grabs me, he throws a glass at me, and he starts telling me that the guy that is in front of our home, Noe, is the guy who assaulted the guy who I was sleeping with. So he goes in front of his motorhome and he wants to talk to him in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock. And I'm
So,
like,
so Nilda, so what ends up happening? It kind of this kind of like a culmination of abuse over time, and this is the conflict that ended up resulting in his death, correct?
yes.
And when that happened, um, did the police come? How did the police get notified? Did they come to your house afterwards, or how did this all happen? And then you got arrested, and how did that transpire after? I know you and him had a conflict, which resulted in his death. How did the police come and arrest you? How did this all go down?
So this is what happened. The family of the victim came looking for Noe, and they said, "Have you seen our brother?" And I said, "No, I haven't seen him." And they did a warrant search. And so when I seen that they were looking for him, I left the scene. I took off. And then this this is where when they started doing the investigation, they found his body laying in a different county, which was in Los Angeles.
And then they connected it back to you. And when you were arrested and you went through the trial, how long did that trial go on for? And then they ended up sentencing you to how many years?
So they ended up sentencing me to 27 years to life because they were so determined that this was premeditated. And I said it wasn't. I did not intend to kill someone. I did not plot to kill it. It was something that came to an accident. I was fighting for my life. I wanted to self-defend myself. I wasn't seeing the person anymore. I was trying to defend my life.
And so you got the 25 years to life, and then um, did that time get reduced later?
Yes.
So I know that was an issue because you weren't able to bring up a lot of the stuff that happened, and so a couple things. What was that time in prison like for you?
Yes. So that time in prison, I went there when I was 18 years old. And because I'm a first offender, I didn't have no experience. I didn't know what a prison was like. And so I had a lot of different difficulties adjusting. I endure a lot of obstacles, and, you know, being in prison, I had to adjust to the environment there. Um, I had been assaulted. I had been, learning the living status there was very different. Um, I had to learn to be raised by different women in there. I had to learn different trades. Um, and I was very, you know, um, I had to learn everything all over again, how to live. And I didn't know a lot of things out here either, but in there, I had to condition myself to different things: how to cook, how to survive, how to um, basically how to determine to accept these new sentencings. There was two different options. Either I was gonna change my life to have a hope that I was going to get out, or accept that I wasn't just going to mess up my life and never get out, and just continue to just accept what the law had given me, you know?
Yeah. And at what point did you decide I have to focus on turning my life around? And what was that process like for you? And how did you come to some type of insight into accepting what happened? Like what was that like, that experience for you?
I turned 25 years old, and um, I really wanted to go back to school, do something with my life. And even if it was inside prison, um, and even if I didn't get out, I wanted to do something better, than just sit around and let time pass me. Um, I knew that there was a lot of programs and a lot of things being offered inside prison. And so I said to myself, let me study law. Let me start with myself and see what bills are starting to come in effect, and see if that would be an offered opportunity for myself to give myself a chance to think that this could apply for me, and hopefully um, I can start there.
Was there anything that gave you hope inside? Like, was there anybody that you connected with inside that gave you the drive to, you know what, I not give up? Because like you said, you could have been in there your whole life. And what kind of turned that around for you? I mean, was there a point where, like, did you ever think to yourself, oh my God, I'm never going to get out? Or did you, because you went in when you were 18? I mean, did you, what, what's inside of you that gave you that fire to say, you know what, I want more and I'm not going to give up?
Yes, so I started off with a bunch of girls, like I want to say maybe 15 of us that were the same age. And we all, I want to say maybe 9 of us, the rest committed suicide. And 9 of us only made it out. And for the other ones, that's what kept me hope, that the ones that survived um kept me hope that we will be strong enough for the rest of the ones that didn't make it, that we could make a difference and continue pushing through for the women that are still fighting to get home.
So what kind of, like, did you do some programs inside? What kind of things did you do inside that was helpful for you?
We did LTOP, the life, the LTOP programs. I did a lot of, they have programs like Feather River College that made me feel part of like I was a real human being, doing community college. There was also a lot of vocational programs, doing computer. That made me feel also a part of, like, I have a computer, I can actually learn how to type. Um, um, Peer Health Community College. I did the peer health for 5 years. Hospice. Hospice also helped me feel connected to having the remorse that I understood the inside to my crime. Um, Connecting and volunteering inside prison, going to death row, um, programs that connected me with people that are inside a jail, because you think of as prison, like, okay, it's just a prison, but there is also death row inside. you know it's very small population, but it still connects you with people who are in a harder situation than yourself. So,
And then when did you get your sentence reduced, and how did you go about that?
my sentence reduced happened in 2012, and that happened due to SB 260. When your crime happened in the juvenile, when, let's say, you're under 18, or between the ages from 25 and under, and you're basically, science says that your brain wasn't developed all the way, and you weren't able to make a decision, according to them, that you can't really call or make a right decision like an adult. And so the way that it was explained to us is that the the adult gets to make a rightful decision, and a juvenile doesn't. They think like a scared person, like a child, and they flee from the scene. And so, because of this bill to 60, it helped reduce my sentence to 17 years to life. So they took a big chunk of that sentence and pushed me closer to board. And going to board, I had to face a panel of people, and they had to decide whether or not, by hearing my case, I was fully prepared to go back into society. And, you
So
know,
how old were you when you actually left prison? Like I said, John, you're totally free now. I know you're not under any supervision from anybody. You're a free woman. But the question, how old were you? So you went in when you were 18, and you got out when? How old were you when you got out?
I was 34.
And the question I have, when you came out, what was that transition like for you? And was it a difficult transition? And did you have felt like you were a different person than when you went in? And were you prepared for what the world had changed in that time? So what was that like for you?
Absolutely. That transition was absolutely difficult, because when I went in, they had pagers. And when I got out, they had something that talks back to you. It's called cell phones and Siri, um, and talks. I mean, cars that drive on their own. And I mean, I had a license, even though I didn't know how to drive. I studied the manual, and I was like, "Go pick up your driver's license." I'm like, "No, wait. I still need to. I need someone to drive me." And so it was very harsh, the transition, um, because I didn't know how to manage keys. I didn't know how to manage. Um, how to I was still waiting for someone to tell me, go get your food. I was still conditioned for child time. I was still conditioned, for someone to open the door for me. I was still conditioned to, wear my 3 uniforms a day, which is my blue outfit. So I had to, like, learn to prepare, in a big world where you're not told any of those things anymore. I had to slowly but surely wake up and do those things on my own. I had to tell Siri what my schedule was so that she could tell me what to do and prepare my day as a planner so that I wouldn't miss work or my schedules.
And
So
I know you're always such a hopeful, joyful person. You know, you're involved with a lot of community organizations, and you're always doing volunteer work, and you're always giving back. And um, I know you're very dedicated to giving back to the community. What made you such a energetic and hopeful person, given all that you went through?
I don't ever want to forget, my past. My past is what defines what happened and where I came from and the hardships that it took for me to get back on my feet. And the survivor's guilt, I every day I wake up, I feel like it's a new beginning. Um, and I feel it's a gift that I'm still alive. And I always want to share to anyone. And every day I work in that field with women who are still struggling how to walk away with domestic violence. And it's very difficult seeing them go back. And I always bring it bring it up. I say, it's that honeymoon stage. I know that, it's very conflict when especially you have children. I'm lucky I didn't have any children, but I do have a family I would have left behind, and that's my mother. Um, and I think it's for anybody, a mother, a daughter, or a father that it's listening today. I would hate anybody who's going through that situation to
Um,
to endure that. Yeah.
what was it like the first time you went to a restaurant, or you had to, sit down and have like a fresh cooked meal that wasn't, prepared for you in a prison? What was that like for you? And was it difficult for you to build relationships with people given what had happened to you in the past?
Yes, it was very different and very difficult because I look at the meal and um I have a hard time eating with metal. I still like plastic spoons. And so sometimes I'm very shy eating around people. And so I don't know if they still notice that my flaws of eating with a plastic spoon. I kind of like look around to see if they know that I'm a little different.
And I
So that's it.
and I know that one of the things I love about your story also is that you've made amends with, you know, um, the family that
Yeah.
you were the family that was also impacted by what happened. And um,
Yeah.
I
They're
think it's really amazing that you've both come together to like a healing place.
yeah. They're awesome. They're awesome. We're in a movement of forgiveness, and they they love that I share my story with others, and they're both Christians, and that they give me the permission to go on and share this impactful story because they want people to turn to God, and they want people to hear this. It's a testimony for them. And
How does it feel for you when you go to the community and you have so many people that look up to you? because of your strength and all the strength it took for you to get out. There's so many women that are in prison, and their stories aren't heard because I think there's such a small percentage of our population that are females that are in prison compared to the male population. Um, how does it feel to go back and speak to these women? Because, like I said, you're even at UC Berkeley, so I'm sure you're interacting with people, and you tell people your story. Are they shocked by it, or
Yes, a lot of women get shocked when they hear the story because they're more like, they haven't heard something as real as this. Especially normally it's like, why haven't you wrote a story or book, or why haven't we seen your movie? um, and I'm working on a process of that. um, I'm trying to get connections. I want people and everyone in this world to, get this on video and want it, especially on books. I think it's very powerful. um, it can get the message.
well? let
Yeah.
me ask let me ask you. I know you recently um, got a home, and how does it feel? I mean, you saved. I know you got a job because, like I said, you're working in different community organizations. You saved money. You saved over $60,000, and you got your own place. How did it feel when you first walked into your own place? Did it feel weird for you? And I know it was a very emotional. I see you're getting emotional now too when you think about it in a joyful way. Um, how did that feel for you? Did you ever feel like you were ever going to be able to get your own place and just to build a life?
Martin, I don't know if you have heard me share from the beginning of this story that all along I've been wanting my place since a kid, a safe place. I just wanted my own home, a place where I felt peace, love, and just, a place where I can just find serenity. And I finally have it. I finally walked in, and, you know, I can have that joy. And I have my dog. I heard a dog back there somewhere. I don't know if you have a
So
dog
so
too, but
so
I
let me.
love it. I love it. I'm just like, oh my God, I get to run around, go up the stairs. I'm like a kid in the freaking big giant house.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you this, Nilda. If you were to look back now, what would the Nilda of today, advice-wise, if you could go back in time, give yourself advice when you were a teenager? What advice would you give yourself?
The advice is, I was trying to rush through life so fast. And, I was trying to grow up fast. I was trying to get through my young self to get to this point really fast on my own, you know.
Well, let me ask you this. I know you probably have a long list of these. So, you have to tell me, um, what are your future goals? Because I know you got a lot of them. So give me 4 or 5 future goals you have.
Let me tell you, my future goals, the 5-year goal plan that I had for Pearl, done. I completed it. I completed it. So I have to create another 5-year goal plan. So my goal is just to complete my license for therapy. I just want to help people. 5-year goal plan is just to get my master's degree in sociology with my therapy license. Because I want to help women like myself. Yes.
And then tell me what your guilty pleasure is food wise.
Oh, food wise. Mm, I can't seem to stop eating aguachiles.
Now you have to explain what that is.
Aguachiles is this Mexican hot chiles with some shrimp on top of some cucumbers, and it's so good. My mom taught me how to make it.
And what is your favorite kind of music?
I love classical music.
If you could be a superhero, what superhero would that be?
Oh my God, I would be the girl. Um, the girl. Let me see. What's her name? You put me on the spot. Uh, a warrior. If
And
I was
then,
a superhero girl. Okay, go ahead.
and if you could be, um, or actually, if you could meet one person in your life, that's had an impact on you, and it could be from any time period, who would that be, and what would you say to them?
Hmm. Selma Hayek.
What would you say?
I want you to be me in my acting character. Yes, I want her to play me.
And if when you look back on life, um, when you look back on your life, what do you want to be remembered for?
Not for the victim challenges that I have, but for the things that I have overcome as a survivor. Yeah.
And what advice would you give people out there that are struggling with challenges? And if you could give them some advice on what to do to get through those challenges and come out stronger, what would that advice be?
Don't look, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope.
Well, that's good advice, and you're doing amazing things. And thank you for all the following your passions and giving back to the community as much as you are. And thank you so much for giving your story today. I know it's not easy to go through this journey again
Yeah.
over the last hour, but it inspires people that you can get through all these things and you can still be a better person in the end and just keep growing and keep growing. And so I really, really, really appreciate you being here. And I want to thank all my listeners. If you enjoyed the podcast, give it a thumbs up. And as I said, Nilda is has many stories about her online, and we're looking forward to your movie in the future as well. And hope Selma will take this project on. But thank you so much, Nilda, for being here. Until next time, everyone, keep learning. Take care.